So San Francisco is a city that we occasionally talk about here because it is ground zero for progressive nonsense and a perfect testing ground for every stupid idea that leftists have ever had, and a great example that everyone can point to say that leftist ideas don't work. Because do you want to end up like San Francisco? Have you seen footage from San Francisco? People defecating on the streets, drug addicts bumming each other in front of children, people in dog masks and gimp outfits wandering the streets. There was the part of What is a Woman from Matt Walsh where there's just a nudist standing in the street corner explaining how, oh, I saw nude people when I was a child, so it won't affect you. No, it obviously affected you. It obviously affected you. You can't be standing on a street corner going, well, I saw naked people and I turned out fine.
And they're completely naked.
Yeah,
on
and
the
you're
street
completely
corner.
naked on the street corner. No, you're nuts. You're absurd. You're crazy.
It sounds like San Francisco is some sort of like random human behavior generator where all of the possible things that could happen do happen.
I think it is, and that's why it's good to point at it and go, what are you doing, San Francisco? Stop it. I mean, it did used to be, the mayor of San Francisco used to be Gavin Newsom, so that explains a lot.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to draw your attention before we go any further onto a recent premium podcast that Callum did with Carl, which was talking about debate might as well be dead, where it was Calvin Robinson trying desperately to speak sense to these kinds of people. And I say these kinds of people because I don't need to describe them. And look at that woman on the left, on the far left with that big grin on her face.
Far left, eh?
Is this somebody who you would feel like debating with? Is this somebody who you think has logical and reasonable, well thought out argument? No. No, these people are insane. They're all really smug and they just want to tell England that England is evil, the British Empire was evil. Forget about the fact that, we built half the cities in India. To just ignore all of that. We took resources from them. We stole ancient artifacts that they didn't even know were there.
It's a wholly negative view on colonialism. There's a lot of nuance there, and I feel like you can only really talk about individual cases when you've actually put in the sufficient amount of time to understand it and the nature of it, what's good, what's bad. Things are never wholly bad, and I think that they only focus on that aspect. Well, there was definitely bad things that happened.
As we mentioned with the fact that leftists are all people who just want to act in their own self-interest. The only reason they point to these things and say it's all bad is because they see that they can get something out of it. Like the Indian woman, I've seen the part of it where she talks about how, they extract... What is it they claim? They extracted like $40 trillion worth of resources, which is just nonsense.
That's larger than both Britain's and India's
and England would
GDP combined.
Surely it would be we'd be a much richer country right now if we had done anything like that. In fact, we wouldn't have lost money on the empire. And Adam Smith was complaining in 1776 in The Wealth of Nations that the empire was a waste of money. He was like, we need to stop throwing all of our money into this pit that's going nowhere.
We need to stop investing our money into poor countries.
Yeah,
that's what he was saying.
That's what he was saying. So, but yeah, it was very interesting. You will die a little watching it, but it's good commentary anyway, so give that a check out. But let's get back to San Francisco and see how things are going. So all I did for a bit of this was I went through the San Francisco Times and just looked at the headlines on the front page from the past few weeks or so. So I'm going to go in chronological order, starting earliest, and this one's November 14th, up to the most recent articles, and then see what San Francisco is doing about the crime. It's not the right thing. They never do the right thing. They don't know how to deal with crime. So this one, straight away. 2 killed in separate San Francisco homicide cases. So just casual murders going on in the city.
Within walking distance of one another.
Within walking distance of one another. Not too big a deal in cities. I mean, Southside Chicago probably gets that in a single afternoon, Mm-hmm. But then let's move along to the next one. Then you've got the day after, 5 Hells Angels members arrested for murder at a Chris Stapleton concert. So Hells Angels doing what they do. They just show up and they cause chaos. Then we get a much more common headline in San Francisco from November 28th. Local business in San Francisco robbed over $178,000 worth of items. And this was less than a week after Mayor London Breed announced new measures to make Union Square a safe place for shoppers and store owners, and then the business got robbed immediately after. If we remember this time last year, there were lots of footage of San Francisco where people were going around this Union Square area and just in gigantic mobs of people storming into these shops and stealing everything. There was the security footage of the one shop where it was almost like a clown car, where it must have been this tiny little corner shop filled with clothes, and there was an endless stream of people just coming in, grabbing everything that they could, and it seemed to be some kind of organised gang procedures where they were blocking off roads to make sure that police couldn't get too close to them, and then they were getting all the stuff and getting out of there as quickly as possible. This is something that happens in San Francisco because San Francisco for a long time has been incredibly lax on law enforcement. San Francisco is one of those places that was very all for defund the police, like many other progressive cities were, and it ended up exactly how you would expect it to, with lawlessness on the streets. And then there was something that seemed to come out of a David Lynch film. We've got, in the next one, human foot found on Richmond Beach, November 28th.
Just the foot and nothing else?
Just the foot, like it's blue velvet or something. San Francisco's better watch out because Dennis Hopper's out there huffing gas.
I fell asleep in the middle of that film, I'm sorry.
Did you fall asleep before Dennis Hopper showed up?
They were playing it at a music festival, to be fair, and I'd had a few beers, so...
They were playing Blue Velvet at a music festival. Were they trying to give everyone a bad trip or something? My goodness.
So.
My goodness. The problem is, if you've watched Blue Velvet, you'll understand the kind of character it is and understand that Frank would be the sort of person who would be celebrated as having an alternative lifestyle in San Francisco nowadays, crawling around on all fours, huffing laughing gas while screaming out about how baby needs to F. Which is,
oh, no.
Yes. San Francisco, they'd be giving him a round of applause and probably offering him some kind of government subsidy if he was around there nowadays. Then there was also this one, woman arrested for firing shots in Berkeley. That's December 1st, so we're getting closer. The incident happened on August 29th in Bonar. San Francisco, do they really have a street called Boner Street? Okay. That makes sense. And Alston Way, the city said the woman approached a 5-year-old boy and started bothering him. The child's mother then confronted the suspect when she pulled out a handgun and pointed it at the mother's head. The suspect fired in the air and threatened to shoot the mother as well. And she'd only just been arrested at the time of this article coming out, so the police were really on the money there. Woman going around threatening women and children with a gun, firing shots into the air. The police there just like, we can give it a few months, lads. 3 months, maybe it's all blown over.
That long.
It took that long. And then possibly the worst headline I've seen in quite a while. Baby suffers fentanyl overdose while playing in San Francisco Park.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yep, so thankfully, San Francisco firefighters were able to use Narcan to save a baby with a fentanyl overdose while playing in a local park. According to the baby's father, it's unknown how the 10-month-old boy ingested the fentanyl at Moscone Park in the Marina District
by the sounds
Tuesday. Well, it might just be the fact that San Francisco has basically become an open-air drug camp for a lot of people. They have such lax drug laws, they have Democrats handing out clean needle sets and such, that you get drug addicts from other states migrating there because they know that they'll get subsidized. I think they get about $600 a month from the government.
The clean needle thing isn't necessarily that bad an incentive in that it's trying to limit things like HIV and
I understand, but
lines,
when
right?
combined with everything else, it just makes San Francisco the most attractive place to be a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
So you get all of these people migrating there, and it's turned the place into an open-air circus of drug addicts and people just doing very degenerate things in the street. And I can tell you exactly how this happened. It would probably some guy or woman did some fentanyl in the park and then left a used needle or something lying about the place. And then the baby just managed to find it while he was playing about.
Isn't it meant to be powder or is it liquid? I don't really understand how it works.
I don't know exactly how fentanyl works, but however they ended up doing it, they probably just left it lying around the park. A baby found it, and this is the sort of thing that happens. It's so bad. I was reading an article from the Hoover Institution about fentanyl, that in San Francisco, the paramedics and even the firefighters, as you can tell, they just casually carry Narcan around with them because it's something that's specially designed to combat a fentanyl overdose. They carry it with them casually just because it's such a common occurrence in San Francisco. Are you checking it out?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it is just for opioid overdoses. So it's specialised pretty much for fentanyl and probably heroin as well.
It's a synthetic opioid, which if I've read it correctly, can be up to 100 times worse than heroin. for a lot of
Yes,
people,
yeah.
which is why people take it. And on the Wednesday, Moscone Park on Chestnut Street was filled with children and dogs, but according to local residents, it is not unusual to see people use drugs in the park. What a surprise. It's so scary and frightening. It's supposed to be a safe part of the city, said one visitor, Clara Lane. So, San Francisco, we all know it's going to hell. We all know it's a place that you don't want to go unless you are brave or or already a drug addict. So what is to be done about this? What has San Francisco, in its genius, decided they wanted to do about this? Well, they decided they wanted to install Robocop. I don't see how that will fix the problem, but I suppose seeing them try to do anything at all is a step up. So Robocop becomes reality as San Francisco police approve killer robots.
That's what I was just laughing at. I saw that headline.
Yeah, so their ruling board of supervisors voted to let the city's police use robots that can kill. The SFPD maintained that its troop of around a dozen droids armed with explosives would only be used as lethal options where there is a life-threatening risk to civilians and officers and no alternatives are feasible. Like, I get that you're a crime-ridden hellhole. Creating this is not the way of going about
It's going to turn into Star Wars, isn't it? It's going to be they're going to send an army of droids after people.
You don't. I mean, if this is some kind of secret eugenic social Darwinist strategy where San Francisco has tried to attract all of the degenerates of America and then tries to wipe them all out with Robocop, it's an interesting 4D chess move. I can't say I approve, though, because there is better ways to help these people. So Dr. Catherine Connolly from the group Stop Killer Robots, that's right, we have to have a group for this, said the move was a slippery slope that could distance humans from killing. Good point. City's police told the BBC they do not currently operate any robots equipped with lethal force. Spokesperson for the police said robots could potentially be equipped with explosive charges to breach fortified structures containing violent, armed, or dangerous subjects. So there are some actually useful applications to this, as well as, say, bomb disposal. You get the bomb disposal robots as well. There are some very useful ones for this. But having ones that are just able and authorized to kill at any point might be a bit of a slippery slope.
It does sound like an 80s B-movie action film.
Well, San Francisco basically looks like one of them as well nowadays. I'm surprised.
Certainly like a scene from Blade Runner.
Yeah, drunk David Carradine's going to start wandering around and mumbling about how he needs to clean the city up soon enough. They also said that robots could be used to incapacitate or disorientate violent, armed, or dangerous suspects who pose a risk of loss of life. The measure passed with an amendment on November 29th specifying that officers could only use robots wielding deadly force after employing alternative de-escalation tactics. So presumably, I don't know, sending a mental health worker in or something. That's what leftists wanted a few years ago, wasn't it? They wanted care workers to go and deal with dangerous knife-wielding drug addicts.
Care workers.
I know, poor bastards. The measures pass. The boards also stipulated that only a limited number of high-ranking officers could authorize its use. The fact is that the current crop of droids utilized by police are far from autonomous killing machines. I love that they have to specify here. No, they're not going to go crazy. They're not AI or anything. They're not going to go like Skynet or anything like that. In the UK, police control robots are mainly used for bomb disposal and to inspect areas and vehicles. That's all true. However, notably, the SFPD's droid can be loaded with 12-gauge shotgun shells currently used to detonate bombs from afar. Same droid was armed with explosives and used to kill a suspect in Dallas in 2016 after a shootout had left 5 police officers dead and several others wounded, demonstrating how the machine can turn deadly. I do think it is relatively useful to use them in situations like that where, are you going to continue like Zap Brannigan to throw body after body at some maniac, or are you just going to send a robot in to take care of the job?
Imagine being the guy who calls the shot, just like send in the kill bots. Imagine the power you would feel.
That would feel pretty good. But even though there are, it's obviously a contentious subject, it's something where people are still working out the kinks. No pun intended, because we're talking about San Francisco there. But, San Francisco, as always, instead of going from it just goes from one extreme to the other. We either have killer robots or we don't have killer robots. And they've decided, in fact, that they don't actually want killer robots, because despite the fact that they'd voted, I think it was like 9-2 or 8-3 or some variation of that kind of thing in favor of these, they've immediately turned about face because there was a backlash against it. So now they've banned the use of Robocop killer robots to fight crime after a backlash. It's been less than a week, lads.
Violating the Second Amendment.
Yeah, robots deserve to have guns too,
Kill bots are a human right.
So now they've voted unanimously to halt a new policy that would have let police use robots for deadly force. Since the vote, the use of robots had been banned. However, the issue was sent to a committee for further discussion. Votes could be cast in the future to decide whether police should be allowed to use robots in such a manner. However, it would only be in certain cases. They didn't even let it see what happens practically. They didn't even get the empirical results. Okay, if we do pass this, what happens? People just complain and they go, all right, sorry guys, big mistake on our part. Supervisor Dean Preston, who had rejected the plans from before the change in course, told his colleagues on Tuesday that the public hadn't been given enough time to voice their concerns about such a pressing issue. In the statement, he said, the people of San Francisco have spoken loud and clear. There is no place for killer police robots in our city. This is just a parody at this point. So this is like something out of Futurama. This is going to be my campaign platform. We need to remove the killer robots from the cities. Oh, God. We should be working on ways. Oh, here we go, because it's San Francisco. They can never actually take, even when they're, stopping something stupid from happening, they've got to do it in the stupidest way. We should be working on ways to decrease the use of force by local law enforcement, not giving them new tools to kill people. So even when San Francisco maybe does the right thing and says killer robots maybe a step too far, it's inevitably for the wrong reasons. It's not because, criminals... it's not because there could be issues where these killer robots maybe malfunction, cause more harm than good. It's because we just need to stop treating criminals so poorly. Who cares that they steal and ruin people's businesses? We need to stop being so mean to them.
I think referring to robots as tools is offensive to robots.
It really is. It really is. But so that's everything to do with that. Everything that's going on in the world, San Francisco continues to circle the drain. Thanks for watching this segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters. I hope you're all having a very Merry Christmas. If you're interested in finding more premium content, you can find that on our website for a minimum of £5 per month. We've also got a new merch store that's very exciting, full of t-shirts and hoodies and mugs and all sorts that you can fit right in time for Christmas. If you'd like to find out more updates and developments from us, you can follow us over at Getter at lotuseaters_com. Thank you very much. See you again.